There's a capybara and meerkat cafe here. There's a dog cafe, a cat cafe. I need to make time to go to this capybara cafe, though, because that's like a dream of mine.
That sounds amazing. I have never heard of a capybara cafe.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams.
All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Remote Roundup, where each month you'll get a highly curated list of the latest and greatest from the world of remote work and long-term travel, including insanely helpful tools and resources, need-to-know trends, destinations worth spending time in, and plenty of insight into what it really means to live and work around the world. And of course, we try to do it with a dose of humor. I'm Caitlin, the associate producer of the Zero to Travel podcast, and a digital nomad for the last year and a half who loves to help people do life differently. Fun fact, I was actually detained at the Paris airport.
What? What happened? What did you do, Caitlin?
Well, we're going to save that story for a bit later in this episode, I think.
Oh, okay. All right. So you'll have to stay tuned. And I am Janessa, the partnerships manager at Zero to Travel. I'm a slow traveler working remotely who took an adult gap year 6 years ago and never returned to a conventional life. And fun fact, I was just reminded that 9 years ago this week, I got laser eye surgery. So that was one of the best investments I ever made. It's incredible that now I can just wake up and see, and I don't have to travel with glasses and contacts and all of the things. And it was amazing. And I can't believe that was 9 years ago. It was such a game changer.
Congratulations on that. I know traveling with like all that supplies, I've had friends who've had to do that. And it doesn't look very convenient. So
it is much more convenient to wake up and see. It feels like a superpower. Anyways, coming your way in this month's remote roundup, 2 remote-friendly destinations that we are excited to be spending some time in, our honest thoughts about one of the hardest parts of being away from home, our picks for your holiday wish list, and more. By the way, before we dive in, a quick reminder that you can get our free, value-packed, community-driven newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter.
All right. So Janessa and I are both really excited to talk about our destinations that we're in right now. We are quite very much on the opposite sides of the world at the time of recording. We're 13 hours apart?
We are 13 hours apart. So this was a tough one to schedule because we are on completely opposite times here, but we made it happen.
We made it happen. This is our 4th try, actually, for anyone who's curious. But we're living the nomad life and making it work from opposite sides of the world. But anyway, I'm so excited to talk about mine, Janessa, that I think I'm going to start with where I am at in the world, if that is okay with you.
All right, kick it off. Let's go.
Amazing. So if you've been listening to our previous episodes, you'll know that I was recently in Bosnia and I had no idea where the hell I was going to go afterwards. So after much confusion and figuring things out, I wound up in Sofia, Bulgaria for a couple weeks. After that, I almost went to Istanbul, and then I made a very last minute decision to get a ticket to Bangkok, Thailand. So that is where I am now. And I love it. I love Bangkok. More specifically, I just love Thailand in general. I spent a couple weeks here in Bangkok last year, and then I spent a few months in Chiang Mai. So I am back here. I have friends. I have a couple friends who live here and some friends who are working the Bangkok Nomad Fest. So I'm going to be volunteering with that, and I'm super, super excited. So getting my flight for this was very interesting. I wanted to share some information and tips on that. So I did book this very last minute. Typically, you can get a cheaper flight, but I did snag a bit of a deal because I got creative. So I spent it was a little less than $600 on a flight here. Like I said, it was the cheapest option, but that is because I actually did my first airport transfer, which I've always been a little apprehensive to do. So this was a transfer in Istanbul between airports. I did not realize the distance between those 2 airports and how long it would actually take. I had a 7-hour layover and I thought that was going to be enough. It was barely enough. So that's like my hot tip is, especially if you're going through Istanbul and switching airports, you need at least a 6-hour layover. And definitely make sure before you book these airport transfers that they either have their own transportation system in between them, because some do, but some don't. So that's just my little tip for that. That was quite the adventure that day. Anyway, back to Bangkok. The city is huge. It is huge. If you're not a huge city person, I don't know how well you're going to do here, but it is absolutely incredible. I love the Thai culture and the Thai people here. I am staying on the west side of the river at my friend's place. So that's not really the most common place to hang out. So I do have to take a lot of Grab scooters when I'm traveling to really get to anywhere, to get to some of the more popular areas. But transportation here is incredibly cheap. I'm spending at most $4 to get somewhere that takes, maybe 45 minutes on scooter. Obviously, it's a little bit more in the car, and it does take a lot longer in the car because of the traffic. So I opt for the scooters. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're the funnest things. The food here is incredible. I could eat green curry every single day, crispy pork. It's so good. I have a lot of food intolerances, so this is a really easy country for me to actually eat and enjoy my food when I travel in. There is so many things to do. I've spent, of course, a lot of time working here, but the shopping culture is insane. The mall culture, these are malls. If you've never been to Thailand, these are malls like you've never seen before, multiple stories, food courts that are just absolutely insane. I have my favorite food court, which is at Terminal 21. That's where you can find the cheapest food in the food courts, and it's so delicious. I'm getting meals for, it depends how big of a plate that you're getting and if you're getting multiple courses. So, I'm eating per meal between, $2 and $10 really per meal. So obviously dinner, maybe I might splurge and have a larger meal or something like that, but it's incredibly cheap, super affordable. There's night markets, there's day markets to get all your fresh vegetables. Like I said, the shopping is insane. There's the night markets, there's vintage shops. There's just, the insanely crazy huge malls. Icon Siam is the most popular one, and that's the closest one to where I live here. And, I think a lot of people have heard about wellness culture here. The, less than $10 massages for an hour. It's about 300 baht for an hour-long Thai massage or foot massage. So it's safe to say that I am getting at least a couple per week right now. This is like my splurge because I can't do this in other countries. So it's super exciting for me. Just the wellness culture in general, something that I recently learned is, things like facials to more invasive kind of like wellness things. And procedures you can get for pretty decently cheap here. So that is a big thing. And the quality is also very, very good from what I've been told. Yoga, Muay Thai, fitness classes, that is all here. So anything that you want to do is basically here in Bangkok. Might take you a little long to get there with the traffic, like I said, but there is so much. There's even a capybara cafe, which I have seen in places like Japan. But there's a capybara and meerkat cafe here. There's a dog cafe, a cat cafe. I need to make time to go to this capybara cafe, though, because that's like a dream of mine. So that's the one thing that is on my list that I need to do before I leave here. Other than that, as far as it being nomad friendly, absolutely. There is a huge cafe culture in a city like this. There is a huge digital nomads meetup group that meets every Thursday, and they put on a ton of events. So if you come here, it will not be hard for you to, meet people or work at all. So overall, I love it. I could spend a lot more time here. I'm going to be here for 3 weeks. I feel like I've barely done anything. So this is definitely going to be a city that I continue to come back to in between all of my other stops in Asia.
That sounds amazing. I have never heard of a capybara cafe, but I definitely want to go to Thailand. It is one of the top countries on my list that I have not yet been to. So hopefully one of these days I will meet you there and I will hit you up for all of your recommendations and meetups and WhatsApp groups. That sounds like a great place to add to the list. All right. So like we said, I'm on the opposite side of the world. I am in Mexico, specifically the city of Oaxaca. So this is actually my second time here, and it's one of my favorite places. And I'm staying at my absolute favorite co-living. Shout out to Co 404. They have a couple different locations, and I stayed here last time for 6 weeks, and I'm doing the same again. But this time, I had a different intention. I'm here for Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So this is a bucket list experience. So if you've ever seen the movie Coco, that is the tradition at the end of October, early November that honors the dead in Mexican culture. It's kind of a blend of different cultures, and it's something that I've really wanted to experience and come back and see it and celebrate and participate and learn as much as I could. So aside from that event, Oaxaca is an amazing place to work remotely. Other than the co-living where I'm currently staying, there are a few other co-livings in town. If you search for those, there's also hostels, Airbnbs, co-working spaces, lots of work-friendly cafes. And I've actually run into a lot of friends here that were here for Day of the Dead. Some of them rented a house together, and it was a big reunion. Some of them were staying at the same place as I was. So it was really nice to just see a lot of familiar faces again in a familiar place and kind of have all these reunions of people that they didn't know each other before, but now we're all in one big, happy friendship circle here. So Oaxaca in general is the culture and culinary capital of Mexico. It's a UNESCO heritage site. It is close to lots of places you can go on a day trip. One of the biggest ones is the Monte Alban archaeological site. So an old civilization that you can still go and view. Oaxaca is just beautiful. Even without Day of the Dead, it is colorful, walkable streets, decorations everywhere, flags hanging across the roads. And for Day of the Dead, people go all out with even more decor and flowers and skeletons and murals. And there are street parties almost every day. Even in general, there will be like wedding parades on a regular basis that you can just watch, you can join in. But for Dia de los Muertos, leading up to those few days, even like the week before, we would just hear the music and we would put our work down, get out into the street. People would be handing out free mezcal. They'd be trying to pour it in your mouth. Some of them were definitely homemade in like plastic water bottles, but still like actually decent quality. So just drop everything and party. So I was really, really grateful to experience Dia de los Muertos. Like I said, it's a celebration to honor death, to honor and welcome back the souls of deceased loved ones. So there is a bit of a somber aspect to it. People set up what they call ofrendas in their homes. They're kind of these altars where they put photos of their loved ones who have passed. They put flowers, candles, food, things that the people liked while they were living in order to guide the souls back to earth for that one night. And it's just a really beautiful way to see how other cultures experience death. I think in most of our cultures, it's a very sad, somber thing. People don't often talk about it. So we did have a really nice evening in the co-living where we all lit candles and we talked about our loved ones that had passed, and we really got to know each other and kind of kick off this celebration. And then, of course, there's the festive side of it, the parties in the streets, and people visit the cemeteries and they hang out there all night, and families will decorate the graves of their loved ones, spend time there, share food and drinks. It's just important to be really mindful of these traditions and not be in there trying to take a bunch of content, and just really soak it all in as an outsider and just be grateful that you can participate in these traditions as well. So that was such a cool experience. Aside from Dia de los Muertos, which I highly recommend, but book it far in advance. So we're talking like 6 to 8 months minimum to be able to get a good place here. It's great the rest of the year, though. I love the food here. I have been eating so much of the food in the restaurants, the cafes, the markets, the street food. Some of my favorites are moles, which are like a sauce with so many different ingredients in them, just very complex and flavorful. They have this stringy cheese called quesillo. I'm obsessed with it. They put it on all kinds of on in quesadillas and on tayudas. There are really good tamales to buy at the market here. They also eat chapulines, which are grasshoppers. That one's not my favorite. I will pass on the chapulines. And then, of course, to drink mezcal is huge here, as well as cacao. So many options. And you can't miss Oaxaca. You got to check it out at some point. So I know we've talked a lot about these destinations, but these were ones that we were very excited to share our recent experiences, and hopefully you can add them to the list.
Wow. Oaxaca has slightly been on my radar. Like I've been hearing more and more about it. I've been to Mexico City and this small little town called Tepoztlan, but I've never gotten there. And this sounds absolutely incredible. I'll hopefully be going to Mexico in the next few months, and 1000% that is one of the spots that I'm going to hit up. So thank you for sharing about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mexico City is also great, but it is such a big, overwhelming city. So if you prefer something a little more smaller and walkable, you can get all of the food and all of the culture experiences right here in Oaxaca. But with that, we will move on to trends to know in the nomad world. So what I've really noticed lately, and I think you have too, is that there's a much bigger variety of jobs that can be done remotely that traditionally couldn't even a few years ago. I mean, we know this post-COVID, so many people are working remotely. But I remember when I first became a digital nomad and I was staying in shared living spaces like this, a lot of people who were newer to the scene were surprised at the different jobs people were doing. And a lot of people said, I thought everyone would be doing my job, whether that was working for tech companies or working in marketing or teaching English or content creators, the kind of the usual jobs that you think of when you think of working online. Recently, though, I have met a large number of therapists and even lawyers. Those are the two that stand out to me with recent conversations, that it's kind of encouraging to hear more people finding ways to make this happen, even when there's more news about return to office. And that seems to be all we hear. And these jobs, typically for, privacy reasons, couldn't be done outside of, your home country or even your home state or province. So those are two that really stood out to me. And we can maybe talk about some others. I guess some other considerations with those types of jobs is like the need for privacy in co-working spaces. Like you have to have reliable internet, you have to have somewhere to take calls that are confidential. So maybe people are seeking out like remote friendly apartments or co-working spaces rather than the cafes. Some jobs can be done more easily from cafes or from the pool, as we'll maybe talk about later. But so not every job can be done that way, but maybe there are other ways to be doing it. Do you have any other thoughts of that? Have you seen this trend as well?
Absolutely. It's a little funny to me too, because I'm in a lot of these, digital nomad Facebook groups, and you still see a lot of people saying, how do I be a digital nomad? What job can I be for a digital nomad? Or there's a misconception that is somehow a job in itself. So
digital nomad.
Digital nomad, that's my job. I would love to get paid just to be a digital nomad and do nothing. I don't know. But yeah, I think that like marketing and tech are still the, most popular job categories. That is very, I don't want to say easy, but that is the most common one as far as I've seen. And some of the statistics that I've seen kind of being thrown around at different nomad events. But it is really cool to start seeing this shift. I realized, as you and I were talking about this earlier, I have two friends who are lawyers, but they are actually lawyers in the traditional sense where they still work for a law firm. And for whatever reason, the type of law that they're in, it's just, I guess, easier for them to be abroad. My one friend, she does rent her own apartments each time to have more of that privacy, but she just meets with her clients and her team remotely. So yeah, a lot of it is about getting creative, making those adjustments. In-person services, even, you see a lot of, yoga instructors or breathwork facilitators or people in the wellness community taking their jobs with them, whether that's they keep their community at home and they offer stuff online, or they build, up their following online and offer online classes, or they offer it whatever city that they're going to, and they reach out to different places and try to offer their services. They go into the WhatsApp groups, the different digital nomad communities, and kind of share that with locals, but then specifically also the nomad communities. Something else along the services line, which I always think of because I would love it, but I haven't seen it yet, is even people that are like hairstylists and barbers and things like that, offering your services to travelers. Because I know for me, at least for women, I know I've joked about this with like men, you go to certain countries and they have a certain way of cutting hair that maybe isn't exactly what you would, do yourself. So I would love to have a nomad hairstylist that is offering, some haircuts in person at their apartment or in the hostel that I'm staying at or something. So yeah, it's just about getting creative. And, maybe if you're in a more corporate position or something, it might feel like that's hard to take remote or to start your own business from, but maybe there's elements of it that you can take to start your own business. And it won't look exactly the same, but, maybe from that, if you start your own company, you can really have an opportunity to carve out something that can maybe be a whole new niche or even be more exciting to you. So it's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, I love seeing this trend now that it's not just marketing and tech. It gives me a lot more hope as I, try to get more creative in the different things that I offer and everything too. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of taking what you know and doing your own thing. Back to the lawyer example really quickly, I know a couple who are based in France and they set up their own law practice there. So they travel most of the year and then sometimes they have to go back to France to see their clients in person or go to court, but they are working traditionally kind of for a law firm, but just for their own. And then another friend here has a legal background and she uses that for in-house writing contracts for a large company. So maybe you're still doing the same job, but it has a different title. Maybe you're taking, everything and your background, your knowledge, you're repackaging it into something else that either you can do for yourself, for individual clients, for larger companies, or maybe even in like a fractional way where you work for a few different larger companies. So those are some other great examples you gave. And I think our key takeaway here is like, even if your job has not typically been done remotely, maybe there's a way to do it now if you get creative about it. So we've listed a bunch of different ways that you could apply that to the field that you're working in, and maybe you can make it happen. All right. Moving on, we're going to get real and honest about something that can be one of the harder parts of traveling, especially traveling for a longer period of time. But this could apply to you even if you go on shorter trips often, but missing big life events. So maybe that is for friends and family members, their birthdays, their weddings, people having babies, and sometimes even deaths in the family. I've experienced that myself as well. Getting the news from abroad is one of the worst things, but you still just have to, live your life in the present because life is short. And that's also what this Dia de los Muertos experience really helps me remember, is that's one of the reasons that I keep traveling, because I know that, a retirement isn't guaranteed. So you got to live your life for yourself now. But sometimes that's tough to balance with when do you go home, when you don't. You have to choose which events to prioritize, which ones you miss. That could either be because of the cost of flying home or the logistics of where you currently are in the world. So yeah, it can be really tough that when you remember life at home goes on without you. And sometimes it feels like you come home after a long period of time and nothing has changed. No one has new news. Friends and family are just living the same life as you are. Well, you've had all these crazy experiences. You feel like a brand new person. But sometimes it's completely the opposite, where all of these things have happened, all these traditional milestones. People have had kids. These kids are growing up quickly and they don't even know who you are. It's hard to even be that role in their life. So I don't know. It's definitely something that I think about, and it can be tough. It doesn't mean it's not worth it, but you really do have to make hard choices sometimes. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think it was in our last episode that we talked a bit about the sacrifices that you make when you travel, and this is definitely one of them. And it's something that has been coming up a lot actually for myself and for people around me. I just met up with a childhood friend here in Bangkok that I never would have met up with unless he was a traveler. So that was really nice, and also kind of a yeah, just the digital nomad life is such a cool thing to reconnect us over. But one of the things that we talked about actually, we have a mutual friend who I lost touch with many years ago, but my friend group there and him were all very close, and he recently just passed of pancreatic cancer. And one of the things that my friend brought up was that I believe he was traveling before they knew that this likely that he was going to not make it through it. So he came home from traveling, and he had this thought when our friend did pass of maybe I should stop traveling in case this happens again because I don't want to miss out on something like this, which is a very big reality for people when you're dealing with people that you know who are sick, or aging parents is also, the reality of things. And that kind of goes into a bit with what I've been thinking about. You're talking about major life events, but there's also things like, major holidays too. It's no big deal to my family if I miss Thanksgiving, if I miss a birthday, as long as I, video call them that day. But things like for me, we celebrate Christmas in my family. So I'm struggling right now with do I go home and see them, or do I stay here in Asia, because it's not the most convenient thing to go home here from Asia, both for cost. I think flights are about $800, $900 right now because I also don't book things so far in advance. But also, yeah, logistics. And if I go home, not sure how long I'm actually going to stay there. So there's a lot of different things to, weigh, figuring out what makes sense the most on my, quote unquote flight path. And maybe if coming home in January instead makes more sense. But now I might have some things going on in January. So I just don't know. And, you said about things with kids growing up. It's been hard for me to build that relationship as an aunt to my niece. I have siblings that I want to get closer to. And, like I said, it's even crossed my mind too that my parents are getting older. They're not that old, but they act like they're that old. And yeah, it can definitely be upsetting when you miss these things that you wanted to celebrate or experience at home. But then on a different note with these things, sometimes you might actually, feel a bit of a pressure to go home for these life events. So this is a conversation that I've been having with my friend and my roommate that I'm staying with here, is that it's important to ask yourself, am I going home for me, or am I going home for them? Am I going home because I genuinely want to spend time with my family, with my friends, and celebrate whatever it is with these people? Or am I going home out of obligation, out of not wanting to disappoint them, out of feeling bad, etc.? So yeah, that's just something there's a lot of things to take into consideration. And, ultimately you do have to do what's best for you, as hard as that is sometimes.
Yeah, that's tough, especially the holiday thing. I am going home for Christmas this year. Christmas is very important to my family. I've only missed 2 Christmases ever. And out of 35 people, I was the only person not there last year when I spent Christmas in Kenya instead. And I mean, I had a great Christmas abroad. The other one I had spent in Berlin a few years back. But I know that it is really important to my family. And I sometimes joke that I wish we could just celebrate it in July, because Canada is a lovely place to be in the summer. But aside from the few days around the holidays, I don't really want to be there in December and January. But if I'm going to go all the way home, I need to go for at least a few weeks or a month or two to make it worth it. So it is tough when you have these obligations, and obviously we love our family and our friends and we want to be there for them, but it's a tough balance. And I think these are good conversations to be having. So I'm glad you brought up those points.
Yeah. And I think too, it's not something that you have to figure out necessarily on your own. Maybe have these conversations with your friends, or talk to your family about how you feel, and maybe I can get my parents to visit me in Mexico or something in January.
Yes, that is one of my favorite workarounds is asking my mom to come meet me in other places in the world.
Exactly.
Because she's one of the people I go home for the most. We're very close, but if we can go have an adventure together somewhere, even better.
Exactly. And it can be their turn to buy the flight ticket. But anyway, speaking of the holidays, we did put together a little bit of a holiday wish list for some items that maybe you want to add to your own list or for you to possibly gift other people. The first thing that I want to start with is actually just subscriptions. I think subscriptions in general are amazing. For one, you don't have to pack it. It takes up no room in your suitcase, just, a little more room in your phone, I guess, using a little more data. And, you can go two ways with these subscriptions, thinking about if it's a gift, for yourself or for another person, but you can go practical. What subscriptions are you or they already using that would be beneficial for maybe you to gift? Or what are the subscriptions that maybe are a little bit more pricey or maybe not as practical, but you would really love to have that you don't want to spend money on for yourself? Well, you just add that to your own wish list and have someone else get it for you. A couple of the things that I thought of was a global eSIM subscription. So you don't have to, when you are about to go to a new country, go through the whole process of which app has the cheapest eSIM, how much data do I get? And instead, you just get a global eSIM subscription. And there's definitely a few companies that do that. So I think that would be my number one. If any of my friends are listening, get me a global eSIM subscription, please. And thank you.
Thanks, Santa.
Yeah. Thanks, Santa. Is ClassPass. So I actually used that for the first time here in Bangkok, which is another hack. If you've never used ClassPass, you can get 2 weeks for free. You can't use a VoIP number to sign up. So I did have to have a friend let me send a code to his, real phone number. But that's a great thing to use in a city to test out ClassPass. But then it is about, I don't know, maybe like $50 a month or something like that. So it's not cheap, but makes a great gift, either ClassPass or any other fitness apps. Also, things like meditation or wellness apps like Calm. I do love to use that one. And then another thing that is great would be language learning apps. There's definitely some really great free ones. I know there's upgradable options, but then there's some really great paid ones too. I don't know, Janessa, if you have any other subscription ideas that you want to add to this list, but I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a great list. And I'm glad you came up with these ideas because I'm so not a gift person. I'm so bad at coming up with gift ideas usually. And I also love that you don't have to pack these. I think a lot of gifts for travelers can be like physical things, which we'll get to some of those as well. But it's great to not have that pressure to have to pack it. So I think those are awesome ways to either wish for yourself or to give other people kind of the gift of things they may not buy themselves.
Exactly. And I think too, it's especially because we are travelers and we only have so much room in our bags. It's about what gifts will make our lives easier and more fun. I don't need another, storage container or something like that on, as a gift. I've gotten enough, passport holders and things like that. So I think this is a little bit more of a practical list. So the next item that we have on this list is, Airbnb, Booking.com, different kind of accommodation apps. I'm not 100% sure if gift cards are a thing. Do you know if they are, Janessa?
Oh, I probably should have looked that up. I think those would be a great idea, though. I'm sure there's some kind of credit you can get. I think often even in like supermarkets, they do sell physical gift cards for online platforms like this. So maybe take a look next time at what's available.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think anything to help out with the price of accommodation would be nice, maybe gift your friend an upgrade at their hostel or at their apartment. Or I actually also saw that there are, maybe this is on another line, but there's like a co-working website that you can subscribe to. Maybe this goes back to subscriptions, but co-working and co-living. So you can get like discounts. Yeah, I think it's called croissant. I'm not sure how big it is, but yeah, so get creative. The next thing on the list that I have is just some work tech. We talked about a laptop stand in a previous episode. If you don't have one, you need to add this to your list because it's changed both of our lives. And the second item that I have is a second monitor that actually attaches to your laptop screen. I don't know if you have seen these, but I need one. I am incredibly struggling without that second screen. I know you've been benefiting from your second screen when you were back at home. So
I know I've been missing it here in Mexico, and I have seen people in the co-working space with all kinds of creative solutions for their second screens. But if you're gifting this to someone, make sure that they have space for it.
Yeah, make sure they have space. Find out the size of their laptop is also probably important to do. The next item that I have is something that I personally 1000% have on my wish list, and that is a Kindle. I know, a fair amount of people travel with a Kindle. I do not. For whatever reason, this year I decided that I was going to pack a ton of books in my suitcase because I didn't have a Kindle, and that has just weighed me down. I don't know what I was thinking. I had this whole process of I want to read 4 books this year, but I don't want to spend $100 and whatever on a Kindle, so I'm just going to pack them because I have a suitcase. Don't do it. Don't do it because you won't read the books. You won't read the books. So I have the Kindle on there. The next item that I have is maybe more for the minimalist, but it is a foldable yoga mat.
Okay, ironic part here. I'm a minimalist. I often travel carry-on only. I have a foldable yoga mat.
Do you really?
I prioritize space for that. Yes, I have the absolute thinnest one possible. I think it's like a 16th of an inch or something. It can fold, but I actually prefer to roll it, and it rolls up very small. It's probably like the width of like a soda can. And I strap it to the outside of my backpack, and it's been amazing. I love the grip on it. If you're on like a concrete floor and this is all you have, it has like no cushion. But if you're going to a yoga studio where they have mats, I love to just throw mine on top. Or if your hostel or co-working, co-living has yoga mats that are kind of nasty, I throw it on top. And if I've got nothing else, it'll work even on the floor. I might need a bit more padding for my knees or something, but for a lot of like standing and seated poses, it's great. I think the brand I have is Jade, and it is the thinnest one possible. So that's actually funny that you said that's for the non-minimalist. And yet
I was not expecting that from you, Janessa. I'm like a minimalist maximalist, so I love it. Yeah. So mine, you can also get ones that actually fold up. So mine is a little bit thicker. So I can't roll it up and just put it on my bag, but I like that it's square. It fits in my carry. Well, I guess I don't have a carry-on now. I have a full-size suitcase. I'm such a bad digital nomad, but I love it. I love it. Okay, and then the last one that I have, which is from our last episode that we talked about, again, is a proper eye mask and some good earplugs.
Ooh. Yeah, those are essential. They make such a big difference. I love, instead of the foam earplugs, like the silicone ones, like they're even the ones that are meant for like swimming. They're super intense. It doesn't let anything in your ear. That's a great idea because you'll always need some earplugs. Matt, this is a great list, Caitlin. Thanks for coming up with all of those ideas for a holiday wish list. The only thing I would love to add to that is this kind of ties back to, getting your loved ones to come travel with you. Exchange experiences that you can do with each other. If you're going to be meeting up with someone, maybe plan a day trip or a food experience with them and maybe gift that to each other. Or maybe even if you are visiting them at home, maybe there's something cool that you haven't done yet in your own hometown that you could do together. So I'm a big fan of that. I'll see if maybe I can get my mom some kind of experience for our next trip together. If you're listening to this, Mom, no, you're not. But that's a great holiday wish list. And let us know if you have anything to add to this list. We're always looking for new ideas. I mean, for others, but also for ourselves. So get in touch with your ideas of what we need to be asking Santa for next year.
Love it.
All right, we'll move on from the holiday gift ideas. And this ties a little bit into we were talking about where people work from. So for our Rogue Roundup this time, I was also on the Digital Nomad Reddit thread, which can be a scary place. But I came across an article that said, or a comment that said, the beach is an objectively bad place to work. And it went on to describe how every article about working as a digital nomad uses that cliche laptop on the beach photo, to maybe convince you that you are on vacation and working at the same time. It's this luxurious lifestyle, easy and chill. And this author is arguing that the beach is a terrible place to work because of the sun. You're always moving around, trying to get some shade. You're burning. Your computer is burning. There is salt spray. There is sand. You don't want to ruin your computer. And the replies to this were pretty mixed, actually. A lot of people agreed and said that beach is a terrible place. We need to get rid of that image. It's just dumb. And other people that said, I love working from the beach. This is how I make it happen. Or maybe I do it for this long every day. I choose beach destinations. So I don't know. I kind of think working from the beach is bad. I don't know. Are you team laptop at the beach or no?
Hell no. So for one, yeah, my laptop would 1000% overheat. My screen is cracked. So if I get any sand in it, we're done. Oof. We're absolutely done. And there's no plugs. So,
right.
You're at max. I mean, I don't think I could stand working on the beach for 3 hours, but my laptop won't even hold a charge. So for me personally, absolutely not. I would be miserable. As digital nomads, a lot of us, we're trying to, I guess, create this different stereotype for ourselves because this is a stereotype, right? And some people don't, I think, take the digital nomad movement very seriously, possibly because this is what has been marketed as what we do, and it's not a real job. You're on the beach, blah blah blah. But at the same time, I see so many people in their marketing still going and taking photos at the beach.
I wonder if people who are trying to sell this digital nomad lifestyle, they're selling a course on how to become a digital nomad. If they go to the beach, put out their laptop, take a photo, and then go home to work.
Oh, 1000%. 1000%.
Who just works there?
And you definitely saw this, I think, more at the beginning of the digital nomad movement. I'm pretty sure this is something maybe a lot of us have heard of, Location Indie, that we were a part of. I'm sure that they used to do this way back in the day, but it's still being used. And it's funny. I think now I'm seeing tons of AI generated digital nomad images that both digital nomads are using. But I'm pretty sure at one point I almost started a nomad festival. And so I was trying to just get a generated image to just put up on the landing page. So, digital nomad couple, I typed in. And what do you think it did? It generated digital nomads on the beach with their laptops. So if AI knows that this is the stereotype, then I think it's time that we have to do something about it.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess that stereotype is sticking around. But yeah, I don't know many people who do work from the beach, but maybe we're just trying to take ourselves too seriously. I don't know. But your poor computer. I've worked from a pool a little bit. I was desperately trying to keep up my tan in Namibia, and we had a lovely pool at the co-working space. And I would sit out there for as long as my computer would handle. And as soon as it started to cry, which was 30, 40 minutes, then I would have to move it into the shade, let it cool down, let me cool down. And I think you got to be very, very strategic about the shade and not damaging your computer, because that just seems so risky.
It's not worth it, especially when your laptop is your lifeline. It's literally your lifeline. I have worked from 2 beach cafes. I did work from one in Zanzibar, at the island off of Tanzania. And we did get some photos just because it was silly and fun. I did also work from, and it was, from the beach bar, the beach cafe or whatever. And that was the same thing when I was in the Philippines. And I did take photos because it was beautiful. It looked nice, so you got sunset, your photo, the palm trees, but I wasn't on the beach. So that's where I draw the line.
I love a good balcony, like a good
Yes.
balcony overlooking the ocean with some shade, connected to Wi-Fi, with some outlets nearby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would love to hear from listeners if you want to reach out to us either via email or our Instagram page. I just want to get your opinions on this because I'm genuinely curious because I didn't expect that Reddit thread to be so divided.
I know. So many people defending the laptop on the beach. Maybe we'll have to make a poll over on Instagram.
I think that would be a great idea. Anyway, so
Right.
I don't know about anyone else, but some of my favorite travel stories to share are actually the ones that come out of my complete travel fails. You know, the moments that were absolutely awful, maybe a little traumatizing in the moment, but somehow they're hilarious now. I think they just make for the best stories. So we're both going to share one today with you. I did hint about mine at the top of this episode, but I'm going to have Janessa go first on this one.
All right. So putting me on the spot here because travel
I am.
fails. I think we are very different types of travelers. We established that in our last episode. Go and listen to that one if you haven't heard where we disagree and where we have our differences. So I'm a very type A traveler. I check and double check everything. I am making sure I can touch my passport. I have a backup plan. So I wish I had more good stories for this, but at one point when I was based in Berlin, a friend and I decided we wanted to go on a vacation and drink some wine somewhere in Europe. So I just randomly picked Montepulciano in Italy. I knew nothing about it except for the fact that I had wine from there and I liked it. So we book our tickets to Rome, we fly there, we explore a little bit, and then we get on a train that we thought was going to Montepulciano. And after this train ride, we're about to get off and we're looking at how close we are to our accommodation, how we might need to get there, if we can walk or take a taxi. And I realized we are absolutely nowhere close to the town. So there is a town called Montepulciano and a train station called Montepulciano. And they were a good 40 minutes apart from each other. And so we actually had to stay on one more stop to get closer and connect with a bus. So luckily we realized this in time. We didn't get off where we were supposed to. We stayed on one more stop. And I was like, oh, the bus station should be close to the train station, right? No, this was a village. There was no station of any kind. We get off a train. There's absolutely nothing. We follow Google Maps to where this bus is supposed to be. The one little signpost was not matching what Google Maps said. It looked like there was supposed to be one more bus that day. This was probably only 4 or 5 p.m., but it was the last one of the day. We were like, how did we not look this up ahead of time? Hopefully we can get this bus. I think we're early enough for it. I hope what the map says is right, but it was super confusing and it was late. And we're like, okay, it's Italy. Fair enough. If it's more than 15 minutes late, then we'll start to panic. And so I still have a photo of my friend with her backpack, looking hopelessly up at this bus stop sign, willing a bus to show up. And there was no Uber around, no other way of getting to this town 40 minutes away. We're starting to look for cardboard to write a sign to hitchhike or something.
Oh no.
What are we supposed to do? Exactly 15 minutes late, the bus shows up and there's a language barrier with the driver. We're trying to ask him if we can get there. He cobbles together different tickets because he didn't have enough of the same type for both of us. And we were just glued to our Google Maps, making sure we're still going in the right direction. So in the end, we did get there, but always look that up if you are going to the right place, that you're not stranded in the middle of nowhere. Now it's funny. I love this photo that I still have of my friend of that moment. So that's one of my travel fails that ended up being fine. We got to this town and then we were able to have some nice wine. And I guess a little bonus travel fail point 0.5 extra was we rented some bikes the next day to bike around to all these wineries. And they said, do you want e-bikes? And we're like, no. We cycle all the time. We're really fit. Are you sure you don't want e-bikes? And we still said no. And the next day, as we're pushing these bikes up the hill, going 10 more kilometers till our next glass of wine, we were like, we probably should have gotten the e-bikes. So again, do some research and look it up so you can avoid these problems. But I am so curious to hear how you got Detained?
Yes. Well, one, I just want to say before we get into that,
Okay.
if you're drinking wine all day, why would you not think to take the e-bike? You're drinking wine. Take the e-bike. Take the e-bike.
No, we're fit and healthy. We want to get some exercise. It's all about balance. No, don't do it.
You know what? It's funny because it always seems like some of these stories go back to transportation in some way or another. So
again, usually I look these things up, right? I always look these things up. This one, we just said, pointed at a map, let's go there, but didn't actually look at the map. Anyways.
I'm glad it worked out for you.
We live and learn.
All right. So my biggest travel fail, and I have tons. Like we said, you and I are very different. So I think that I plan things through, and a lot of the times I guess I don't. So this was in Morocco, 2018. And I realized, I think on the second day of our travels, that I lost my passport.
No.
Yes.
That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, same. I am so paranoid about it now. Anyway, so I lost my passport. We had already been planning on stopping in Casablanca. So, great. There's a U.S. consulate there, and I can go and get a temporary passport. So I do that. The officer there, or whatever his position was, he issues me this temporary passport and says that I should have no problem wherever I go to get me home. He gives me a piece of paper, to show that it's legit. All of that, sends me on my way. It took all day to get. It was a very stressful situation, but I got my passport. So I can go in so many different directions with this story right now because there are so many other things that happen.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, so I got my temporary passport, and at the same time, a couple days later, we had the police officer from the airport messaging my family on Facebook saying that they had found my passport at the airport. Of course, my parents automatically assumed that this was a scam and that I was kidnapped and the worst things that could happen. I also thought that was very strange to a police officer on their personal account messaging about my passport, but it turned out to be legit. So I wound up getting my, lost passport back. So now I had two passports. So meanwhile, I'm traveling home and I'm sitting next to this couple on the plane. They're a German couple, and they were telling me how they're flying back from their daughter's wedding, but they had gotten food poisoning at the wedding and they were not feeling too hot. I was sitting this is where it gets really bad. I was sitting in the aisle seat, and the man has to get up to use the bathroom. And I can't get my seatbelt off. I think because I'm just like a little nervous because he was like so rushed. And so I didn't open it all the way. So I just, I turned to the side so that he could, get past me, shuffle past me. Next thing you know, I am smelling something very foul on my arm. Thankfully, I'm wearing a sweater, and, I'm basically shoving my nose in this, and I'm like, what is this? Why, what's on my sweater? I turned to the side, and like I said, he had food poisoning. So I'll leave it at that.
No.
Oh
no.
Yeah. So he had an accident. He essentially pooped his pants. So
on you.
I got pooped on.
You got pooped on a plane.
By an adult on a plane. And the airline did nothing.
What? You just have to sit in this man's poop?
He wound up, staying at the back of the plane. I frantically just started looking all around, and thankfully there was a man who was like, oh, you can, there's a seat next to me, because he could tell that I was mortified by something. So I changed my seat. The flight, they never did anything about it. Eventually, I think they sprayed some Febreze or something, but I definitely think the flight legally probably should have landed, because it was not, it's a hazard. It's 1000% like a biohazard or something. I probably could have tried to get like a free flight out of this, but I was so mortified. I didn't even think about that. But looking back, I could have taken advantage of the situation. But then it gets worse. So I get off the plane. I throw out my absolute favorite sweater, comfiest sweater. I throw it out in the trash bin. So I went from Morocco to Paris. I landed in Paris. I go up to passport control. I show them my temporary passport. And they say, we don't accept those passports here. And I said, what do you mean? I was told that it would get me through. I have this letter. Look at that. And then I said, oh, well, I have my lost passport. I have 2 passports now with my face on it. I'm legit. I'm a real person. Let me through. And they said, well, no, because now that one has been reported as lost. So that's not valid at all. And neither is your temporary passport. We can send you back to Morocco. And I said, that is the last place that I want to go. My experience there personally wasn't very enjoyable. And then I got pooped on. So you can imagine my state of mind when that happened. I was crying like a little baby. Eventually, after talking with the manager for like what felt like hours, they decided that the main problem was because I had a connection in Iceland to then get back to JFK, which is the biggest airport in New York. So they said, if you buy a direct flight back to the United States right now, we will let you through. So $3,000 later, yes,
No.
I had to buy a lovely Delta flight. The food was great. But $3,000 later, I was able to get home after then being taken through the airport as if I was like a criminal, going through extra inspection, going through these back doors, being escorted so that, I wouldn't, run around the country and run amok and escape or whatever. So yeah, so that's probably my biggest travel fail.
Oof.
But it really is one of my favorite ones to tell. So still a little bit traumatized.
What a day. That is, I can't believe all of that happened in one day. Like that's
in the matter of
wild.
hours. Yeah. Yeah. Like just when you think it can't get any worse, it gets worse. So, maybe this will make some people feel a little bit better about your own travel fails out there. Or if you have some of your own travel fails that maybe would make me feel better, feel free to hit me up on my Instagram or send me an email because, these are my favorite. I love hearing all of these.
I love those. We would love to share some, even if you want to share it anonymously.
Yes.
Maybe if it's embarrassing. Maybe you're the one who pooped on somebody on a plane.
Oh God. Yeah. The man listening, the man that did it to me is listening right now and saying, oh God, that's me. That's me.
He's actually been a Zero to Travel fan for 10 years.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. Yeah, we could make this into a whole new segment.
I love it. Okay, well, that
great.
was incredible story, Caitlin. I am so sorry all of that happened to you, and I hope that never, ever happens again. But thank you for sharing your worst travel day ever.
Anytime.
All right. So to wrap it up, we are going to each share our number one biggest takeaway from today's conversation in just a moment. But first, one last reminder to sign up for our free newsletter, where you'll get more helpful resources like you heard today over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, let us know what you thought of this episode. Share any ideas, share any stories. Let us know what you would like us to talk about next. You can send us an email either at caitlin@zerototravel.com or send a message on Instagram at zerototravel. All right. Do you want to go first for your takeaway? I've got one in mind.
Yeah. So as always, I think there's a lot of value in a lot of the topics that we talk about. But one thing that is sticking with me right now is all about getting creative if you don't already work remote, if you're not already a digital nomad and you're not exactly sure what you want to do. A lot of the advice out there, especially, is you feel like you have to restart or, start as a VA or something like that. But don't be afraid to get creative and take the skills that you already have and carve out like a whole new business ideas, carve out a whole new niche, because I think that's ultimately going to be more enjoyable doing what you love. But like, also, how cool is that you get to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many creative ideas out there, so many resources. You can make it happen. And I love that it feels like a lot of our themes always kind of tie nicely together in the end. We actually don't necessarily plan the episode this way, but kind of once we get rolling, there's always something that ties it together. And what's coming to mind for me is just you do you. Like, there's so many ways to do this lifestyle. There is no one right way to travel, no one right way to be a digital nomad. So you pick the job or the type of work that works for you. You pick the type of travel that works for you, whether you want to go home for the holidays, spend certain times of the year in certain places, whether you want to be a travel minimalist or a maximalist. There's just no right way to do this. If you want to work at the beach, if you don't want to work at the beach, you do you and figure out what works for you. And you can always change. You can always pivot. You can always get creative and try something else. So thank you so much for sharing this conversation with us today. This was really fun, Caitlin. I had a great time talking about these things. So our challenge for you today is just get creative and figure out something that works for you, and maybe take those first few steps if you're not doing it already. If you're already on the road, maybe try something new.
I love that. And if you do decide to try out working from the beach and you destroy your laptop, don't blame Janessa and I.
To be clear, we are not team laptop at the beach.
Exactly. All right, Janessa, do you have a quote to wrap this up before we go?
I do have a quote. This is actually on the wall of my co-working space, and I see it every day. So
Love it.
That is, a mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimensions. And that is by Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. And I think that is so true and a great place to wrap it up. So thank you for joining us today, and we will talk to you next month.
See you later.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.